administration to respect Canadian sovereignty. It says President Trump has never brought up the issue of Alberta independence with it. Polls show most people in Alberta prefer to remain Canadian. Chris Foster.
Wall Street stock futures are down before the opening bell. This Olympics news. Days before the Winter Games start, American skier Lindsey Vonn was injured in a practice run. No word how serious the injury is. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. 1490 WHBB Selma. This is Viewpoint, a presentation of the News and Public Affairs Department of AM 1490 WHBB. We welcome your input on the issues of the day. You can contact us on the Viewpoint line by calling 875-1490. The opinions expressed by our callers and guests do not necessarily reflect those of the management and staff of AM 1490 WHBB. And now, here's today's Viewpoint.
And good morning, and welcome into the Friday morning Viewpoint for this Friday morning, January 30th, 2026, the last Friday of this month. And this month is really just raced right along. I am still amazed at how quickly it seems the month is gone. So I don't guess we're gonna it's gonna go like that. We'll see. Wow. And tomorrow, of course, being the last day of January, February the 1st, Sunday, and February is also Black History Month. So I'll be doing quite a few features on various aspects in people dealing with Black history. I like to focus on local people and local history as a rule. So it just depends on how much information I've already accumulated, and then the selmapostherald.com, and we'll be sharing its information with WHBB and the Viewpoint audience as well. But we're not going to stop there, because also, coming up in April, we've got the anniversary for the Battle of Selma, one of the last battles of the Civil War. It's a lot of interesting history. Selma has really been a part of some very pivotal moments and critical moments in American history. And this is also the 250th anniversary year for the United States, for the Revolution, 1776 to 2026. So we're 250 years old in July, and while we're not as old as some of our other cultures worldwide, but the governments of those cultures are not that old. China's present government, has only been around really since not even World War II. I think they came in, this present government came in after World War II. I've forgotten the exact year, but it's not that old. Neither is the present form of government in Russia, because remember, the USSR collapsed in the 70s, was it? Or was it 90? I've forgotten the exact year with them. I have to sit down. That's what I mean. I've got to sit down and look at all these dates again. I've got a lot of different dates floating in my head, and so they all get jumbled up every once in a while. But the point is, most of these world governments are less than 50 years old. Certainly no more than 75. And that's not very old in terms of the world stage, but not only is the United States 250 years old, but we are now the oldest, the longest democracy, democratic republic. Benjamin Franklin said, "We now hand you a republic if you can hold on to it." And if we really look around the world and see what's happening with some of these other nations and cultures, I think it kind of brings things into clarity. Look at Iran. Iran's revolution took place in the 70s. What they call a revolution, when they went to a form of Islamic extremism, religious control. And we've just seen what that results in, with the execution of thousands of people who wanted to express their dissatisfaction with the government, their form of freedom of speech. Hmm. We know about China. China in 1990, I believe it was, 89 into 90, with Tiananmen Square, when the youth in China questioned its government, and they sent tanks in to squelch them. And a few of them were able to escape and leave China and come to the United States. But again, that's socialism. Um, China is a communist socialist country. The kind of communist socialism that some of us in this country are being wooed, and they're trying to sell us on that form of government. But all you have to do is look and see what has happened over the last 50 years if we want to ask ourselves the question of whether it works or not. And then Russia, look at what they're doing in Ukraine. They're trying to reassemble the USSR. Ukraine uh, gave up their nuclear weapons when the USSR dissolved, with the understanding that they would be independent. That was why they gave up their nuclear weapons. That was their price for independence. And I think I hear this $5,000 person a week or a month figure of people who are dying as a result of this war. Compassionate government. They care about the people. They want Ukraine because Ukraine is at the heart of the history of much of Russian culture. And I was really, I am a fan of Fiddler on the Roof. And if you're familiar with it, if you're not, Fiddler on the Roof is an iconic movie that was done back in the 70s. It's a Jewish story. But what I didn't realize was that it was in Ukraine. Ukraine has been on the world scene for a long time, and that's why Mr. Putin wants Ukraine, because of its historic and cultural significance that it would bring. But in the meantime, so you mean to tell me you're willing to murder and kill thousands of people, and oh my goodness, the damage that has been done to much of their art in architectural buildings that can never be replaced. What kind of thinking is that, I wonder? Well, anyway, so here we are, the United States. We're considered and have been a self-described experiment in democracy. How long will we last? I was listening to a program yesterday, in fact, talking about, I've forgotten the author's name. Oh yeah, he did a study back in the 1930s, and the study analyzed and presented research on governments and civilizations over the last 5,000 years, and analyzed the rise and fall of these civilizations, and asked the question, why did they fall? And it seems, according to his report, and I understand it's an awfully thick book, hundreds of pages. According to the study, once the nations embraced sexual freedom, anything goes. That was the beginning of the end of their civilization. And the civilizations that were the strongest were the ones that embraced family. If we look at it, there's a lot of that going on now. Everybody has a different view. Not everybody, but there are a lot of different opinions about this right, the pro-life movement and abortion. But I don't know if anyone can deny that basically the abortion movement is about sexual freedom. And I take it another step and say, well, I want the freedom to do what I want to do sexually, without being held accountable for any consequences. So if a young lady gets pregnant, have an abortion. She says, well, I want to pursue my career, and I want to do this and I want to do that, but I didn't take any precautions to not get pregnant. I'm not using protection. Never mind the risk to sexually transmitted disease, but I didn't get a disease, but I got pregnant. So I'll have an abortion. That's sexual freedom. That's what this is all about. That's what that's all, that's what that movement to me is all about. And the other side to that is saying, well, you have options. You don't have to have an abortion. You can, the baby can be adopted. There are plenty of parents out there who would like to have, like to adopt a child. And so this culture of death and sexual freedom, we better keep our eye on, because it has dire consequences, and anytime a society such as ours begins to normalize a man competing against women in women's sports, I'm sorry, I think there's something wrong with that picture. And as I think about some of the other movements in this country now, remember Dr. King, I often reference Dr. King because he was the last effective social leader. He was the last effective American leader that dealt with being able to actually make change and impact and influence legislation. Thurgood Marshall said, the late Thurgood Marshall, who was the first African American on the Supreme Court, he said, you can march all day and march all night, but if you don't affect the law, if you can't change the law is the bottom line. And so Dr. King's movement created several changes in terms of the law. The first would have been the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Well, no, not the first, because I go all the way back to Montgomery, with the Montgomery bus boycott affecting and eliminating segregation on public transportation. And it also impacted interstate travel and being able to have the ability to not be denied staying at a hotel while you're traveling, right? And some other things that had to do with public interstate transportation. So that was really the Montgomery bus boycott in terms of Dr. King's movement that he led was effective in again, using the technique of nonviolence. And so I doubt very seriously if Dr. King would have embraced men competing in women's sports. I say, if you're transgender, why don't you create your own league? Why don't we just create a transgender league? Or is it not enough transgender athletes? But according to them, they would have us believe it's hundreds and thousands. Well, that should be enough to create your own league and not have to compete with women. I can remember, and maybe some of us also can, when I was in school, in elementary, junior high school, we had exercises to show the difference between females and males. In fact, we didn't even do the same push-ups or the same pull-ups because of the differences. And there were one or two exercises where there were some things a female could do that a male couldn't, and vice versa. So we know that, I don't know what people were thinking and who in their right mind, in terms of realistically, would say that there are no differences between men and women. That simply is not true. I could point to the obvious, unless you've had a sex change, and then it's not real. You weren't born. Now they say that there's some that are born with both organs, and that would be, but it's rare, and it happens. Just like there's some a lot of rare things that happen in the animal kingdom, and we're animals too. So, but we got 2 legs, and some of us act like we got 4. That's another story. So I'm just saying, these are things to consider. Remember also that communism does not allow for religion. You know, it's the absence of religion. And can you imagine? I can't imagine. Well, I can see it now. All of the murder and mayhem that we're watching unfold is probably a factor. Has to be the absence of a spiritual life or a spiritual mind. No spiritual minded person, unless they worship death, would commit the kind of heinous crimes that we're watching happen, whether they be mass shootings or on an individual level. Look at yesterday, where where the guy was arrested for uh, ramming his car into the back of some female at 3 o'clock in the morning, and then getting out and shooting into the car. What kind of a spirit do you have to do something like that? So we need to really, assess, put ourselves in check. Look at Minneapolis. Why would you create an environment and create a situation so that then you can come back and say, look, you see, I told you they were no good, even though I have created an environment. It's like I know, I know some folks that would be, let's see how to put this, accused of inciting riots. I know some folks personally, you know, is accused of inciting riots, creating an environment to incite a riot, and then they walk away and step back and say, "See what I told you? I told you that's what they were going to do." Well, I guess so. Then they expect you to come to them for a solution to correct the problem that they started. Well, that's I don't know. Viewpoint, you're on there. Good morning. How are you? I say, I said good morning. How are you?
Besides that, I wanted to ask you about a couple of things and get your opinion on it. Jonas Don Lemon was arrested last night by the FBI for coming against the woman at the church. I don't know how you feel about that. And Iran Omar was attacked the other night with a guy with syringes and stuff, spraying stuff on him. And the president said that she probably did it to herself. She probably staged it. I want to know what you feel about that.
Well, in Mr. Lemon's case, we know that Don Lemon is bisexual. We know he's gay, right? Let me finish. Didn't you just ask me a question? I'm gonna let you know what it means. Do you want the answer? Do you want my opinion or not? Don Lemon is gay. That's the first thing, right? And I found it very interesting that gay and Islamic forces have a tremendous disrespect for the Christian church. That's the first thing. That's how I see it. And from what I've heard about this report and Mr. Lemon, oh, that's right, he was buying coffee and donuts for the people that were protesting, that were getting ready to go into the church to disrupt their religious service. And again, I asked the question, keeping in mind that Attorney General Ellis is Muslim. I wonder how he would have felt if that had happened to an Islamic mosque. So I don't know. I don't know all of the facts, but they must have a reason for doing. And also keep in mind, Mr. Lemon is probably trying to find his way back in somehow into media. I was in a major market, and I remember a cameraman that had a nervous breakdown because he had lost his job as a cameraman. Some people get so caught up in the media they can't handle being fired, and they'll do anything to stay in the limelight. So that's my first thing on that. Now, as far as Miss Omar is concerned, look at all of the kinds of protesting and all the techniques and tactics that are being used against ICE agents and a few other elected officials that have had to endure the same thing. She has said some awfully provocative. She's made some awfully provocative statements to have not been born in this country, and her bank account has certainly been inflated, as I understand it, since she's gotten into Congress. So, you know, it goes with the territory. I don't know what the comments were from President Trump. While I support the president, and while I think he's doing a lot of good things, I don't wait a minute. I don't sit off of waiting for every word that comes out of his mouth. So I don't know what he said. That's my opinion. You asked my opinion, I just gave it to you.
Let me ask you something. Let me speak this folks. I don't interrupt you. First of all, Don Lemon being gay has nothing to do with him being arrested. He's a journalist. He was covering a story. And why would somebody go after him as a journalist for covering a story? Second of all, you should have been want to talk about Elon Omar about her making money while she's out. Trump just made 1.4 billion. Now, that has nothing to do with somebody coming up and attacking her. Now, the humanity in this country is dropped to zero on the Republican side. They don't care about anything. Now, the president should up there, he called garbage, and he called Alex Williams and Minneapolis garbage. That's the president of the United States. If they don't have respect, I mean, 98% of the people that was arrested up there in Minnesota and Minneapolis was American citizens that were born here. But you calling the people garbage and this and that and all the other. I just don't understand how, as a Christian man, that you can follow what these people are doing.
Give Caesar what Caesar's. The other question is this, though. Now, you mean to tell me, hold on, this is what gets me about when people come with this kind of narrative that you just gave. What about all the hateful rhetoric? And that's the only way, all in the provocative rhetoric from the left. Then they step back and say, and when somebody throws something at them, finally, after they've said called them everything under the sun and have done and kicked and spit and everything else on them, when they finally get a reaction, then they say what you just said. But if you hadn't had all that hateful, if you didn't do all that hateful rhetoric and all of the provocative actions, then you put yourself, you're asking for it. That's like coming up to me and smacking me in the face and not expecting me to knock your ass down. You don't know who you're dealing with. No, they're wrong. They shouldn't have done it in the first place.
The president of the United States, the one sitting in office right now, in 2015, he came to fame in politics by calling the black elected president of the United States not a citizen of this country. Now, don't give me that stuff about the left this and the left that and this and all that. The right is, these people are just evil now.
So in other words, because the president called President Obama questioned his residency, you consider that hateful.
Why would you consider this man here not born here when he can already show his documents and everything else?
It's called political theater, and it obviously it works for President Trump. That's the first thing, y'all. You know, I'm so tired of hearing that racist BS. That's BS. That's how I view it. It's nothing has stopped my color, my skin hasn't stopped me from doing anything I've wanted to do. Now, has it stopped you? That's his right to say what he wants to say. I'm not that insecure. I'm not that insecure. Let me say it again. I'm not that insecure. That doesn't define who or what I am. You know, people like that. That's what the people looking for an excuse to fail. You're looking for a scapegoat. Talking about history, talking about civil rights, talking about this, that, and all of it. You understand what I'm saying? And this man, you're trying to convince you, and you don't have a problem with it. You're too focused on President Trump. I think if he's our president, let him do his job. I'm focused on what I got to do. I'm not focused on what he's doing. You get a life. Stop, no distance. I don't get that. I don't get it. Well, look, you know what I'm worried about? Is the price of gas going down? Are eggs at half the price they were last year? Or other things is it getting better? Is the economy getting any better? That's all. I didn't vote for a priest or a pope. I voted for a president. Don't tell me what I'm supposed to do. I've got my own. I've got my own set of rules, not yours. My standards, not your standards.
You are like him. I mean, you don't care about if anybody got a different view from you. You hate those people. You hate me. I can tell when you come to me.
No, I don't have a lot of respect for your opinion, but I don't hate you. I think you're uninformed. I think you're uninformed, but I don't hate you.
You don't have any respect for my opinion because you would not let me read on and get everything out. The thing about it is, when you sit up there and can answer a question I ask, you're shit to someone else.
Yeah, but this is not. No. Viewpoint. The viewpoint is not designed for you to ask me questions constantly about what I think. It's designed for you to explain or to express how you feel. Well, you say that, but you wouldn't have been able to say what you just said if that were true. No, I have to admit, sometimes you say some of the most ridiculous, ignorant positions that an informed person I can think of would say. Well, I'm not that. The list is I'd be here all morning trying to go through the list. I'm going to have to start writing it down. Tell you one thing about what? About what? No, I'm not. Like I said, no, I'm not going there. I'm not going down that rabbit hole. In fact, I got to get ready to take a commercial break. Let me let you make your closing remarks.
Because the person imagine you can't answer them honestly because you know I'm right. The thing about it is, man, I am not bothering nobody. I ain't no loyal Democrat, I ain't no loyal Republican, I get that. I'm looking with my own eyes and ears. Which Trump said, don't look at this and don't hear that. I am looking with my own eyes and ears and see this country is going backwards. Now, really, you don't see it, I just can't understand it. You're right. You need to be honest. You need to wake up. You need to be ready.
Okay. I need to be woke. Thank you for your call and your opinion.
In today's world, repairing your vehicle to showroom condition demands cutting-edge technology. That's what you get at the all-new George's Paint and Body Shop in Selma. After tornado damage total reconstruction, George's has the latest advanced technology, especially designed for today's multi-tech vehicles. The Bosch calibration system restores safety features like lane departure and collision sensors. The two new Chief frame machines and computer laser measuring system delivers pinpoint accuracy down to the millimeter. And the two new downdraft paint booth units provide perfect quality refinishing. And with the reconstruction comes a much larger facility designed for an increased capacity and quicker turnaround times. George's deals directly with your insurance company, but they work for you. Call to schedule your estimate and repairs today. See the pros, Eric and Scooter Hoggett at George's Paint and Body Shop, 1215 J.L. Chestnut Jr. Boulevard, or call 334-872-1441. The all-new George's Paint and Body Shop has reopened in Selma. Hi, George. It's a big world out there, fast-paced and full of challenges. The last thing you need when you have a vehicle accident is more hassle on top of hassle. Wouldn't it be great if you could just go somewhere and talk to Mom and Pop? Well, you can. Mom and Pop are alive and well at Auto Beauty Body Shop in Selma. Aaron and Cindy Grimes have owned and operated Auto Beauty Shop for a good while now. They make similar caring family approach to their customers. Certainly, they have the latest multi-tech equipment and highly trained technicians, and they have an excellent relationship with all the insurance providers. But they have something no other body shop has. They have Aaron and Cindy, the Mom and Pop of vehicle body repair. A simple approach to discussing the damage, the estimate, and the factory quality repairs. Please drive safe, but if you have an accident, ask your tow truck driver to take your vehicle to Mom and Pop Auto Beauty Body Shop, 2001 Highway 14 East. Phone 334-872-2248. There are currently no delays. They can get you in today and start your repairs right away.
Mm-hmm.
We're with our friends at Reliable Chevrolet and GMC at the store downtown Selma, serving the area for 80 years. Mary Parker is with us right now. We're talking 2026 has just arrived.
That's right, George. New Year kickoff.
Hey, now I hadn't been here for 80 years, but I've been in the business for a little over half of that. But we have been located right here in downtown Selma for 80 plus years, and we're doing business, to you, George, the old-fashioned way, working one deal at a time. We want to get to know you and your family. We want you to become part of the reliable family. So come by and see us in the market for a new Chevrolet or GMC or even a pre-owned automobile. We have got you covered there for all your driving needs. And then same thing with service. We can do all your service work. We can do all your financing. We're, as I say all the time, we're a one-stop shop where we sell them and service and do the financing for you right here at Reliable Chevrolet GMC.
You mentioned the financing part of it. There may be someone along the way that has had a little credit hiccup or a hardship in the past. We're looking for good people, not necessarily good credit, right?
That's right, George. We're set up with credit acceptance. They're known to help you reestablish your credit. Hey, it could be, several reasons why you had some credit problems. But as I say, it's not a problem here at Reliable Chevrolet GMC. We can get you reestablished and get you riding today.
All here at Reliable Chevrolet and GMC. Come see the difference about local treatment in Central Alabama at Reliable, where they truly have it all. If you're considering home renovation, restoration, or construction of a brand new home from the foundation up, it's very important that you choose the right contractor from the start. That's why you should contact Steve Johnson at Renovation Plus. Renovation Plus specializes in all phases of home repair, paint, and remodeling. Take down this phone number, 334-412-1939. Steve Johnson at Renovation Plus, licensed, bonded, and insured. Listen to this, Renovation Plus customer.
This is Sandra at Cornerstone Realty. He works very well with his client. If he says he's going to be there, he's going to be there. He does excellent work. And he also is more than just a carpenter. He's more a craftsman.
Steve at Renovation Plus will respect your home, helping keep it clean and neat with minimal disturbance during construction. Call Steve at Renovation Plus, 334-412-1939.
1490 WHBB Viewpoint, you're on the air.
Good morning, man.
Good morning. How are you? I'm woke. I'm gonna get into the woke philosophy. How's that? Anyway, what's on your mind this morning? Minneapolis, Minneapolis, and Minnesota. Same thing. They're right, just about next. They're near each other.
You think that it's like George Soros right here on the world at night. You think he'd be doing good by now. So we go back to the time that he said that there's funding all that.
Yeah, that's a good question. Who's funding or who's spending all this money, to get to make sure that they have these this disarray and confusion, finance chaos. Somebody's financing chaos.
Well, you know who it is. He's for a small handful of people. George Soros says he's up there in the top two.
He's the number one suspect.
He is. He's one that had to help Nazi Germany go ahead and round up the Jews. Who was it?
Well,
I guarantee something with guns. I'm not quite sure. I'm not sure that. I don't know about his goal. I don't know about his speculation. So I know for a fact who he was. But it seems like to me that his George Soros hated the guy that helped Nazi Germany go around up the Jews. Probably the same family.
Well, I think where their PR people are being slick is they probably realize that the average person really doesn't know the history of Nazi Germany or the fact that they attempted to rule the world twice. They were instrumental in World War One and World War Two, and the kind of and it is a known fact that propaganda was the rule of the day for Germany. That's what they did, propaganda. That's how they got a lot of their work done through in propaganda being half truths and lies. They're very good at that, or they were.
All I got to say about them thing on the up there, that running interference with them ice agents and everything, are idiots. I think if I need something like him folks to hook up there doing all that mess, I'd get on. I really would. Whatever, I mean, if they get arrested, or they get shot, or wounded, or shot and dead, it ain't nobody's fault but theirs. They know good enough by that you're not supposed to interfere with law enforcement. That's how I come by here because these ain't police officers. They got attitude. I mean, like if I was going down the road, maybe you use a train, or a lane train, or maybe use a turn signal, or, if a place crashes out, I get pulled over, they ticket. Big deal. They shall be going home, not jail, or not to the hospital. These people nowadays, they ain't so racist idiots. Find them something. And if you're out there interfering with the job of law enforcement, you deserve to get your butt whipped, or bit, or thrown down, or whatever. I seen one the other day. He got out, maybe the lane change. I seen this speeding by him going down house. Speeding down house by here 40, 45. He's doing at least 60. Still posing over. Oh, he gets right down run away over the car. What about they're doing his job? What the heck is the dang on motor showing? Lots of people. It's a place that ain't going no games on the earth. That's how stupid folks are, guys. They are done that stupid. Don't deserve driver's license. Don't deserve to be out there on the dang road. And then they want to haul out here and stop about everything done. What the hell? City government getting paid more than what they need, what they should be getting. And now law enforcement can purchase funds and everything, and get breadcrumbs. That's that. I don't know if I say Randy my head, but I'm not there. That's backwards. Seriously, that's backwards. I wouldn't say the other word, but anyway,
yeah. Oh no, I hear you. There's a lot of things I'm tempted to say. I've forgotten. I think there are 5 words we're not allowed to say on radio. Yeah, so I have to try and keep them out of my head.
City council members can get out there and help run the city like they're supposed to. They do not deserve $75,000 to $80,000 a man on a year by his salary. The mayor does not need $100,000 salary for doing one new thing he does. Oh, you might go out there, to some benefit thing, talk a lot of mess and every damn thing. But for $100,000 a year, nah, he don't deserve that. He deserves that by making law enforcement. First responders, rescue squad, fire department.
Mm.
Well, it ain't gonna be like the other guy back here on the phone, everybody. All right, too. I thought just throw that out there.
Okay, well, look, thank you. Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
They can make somebody mad.
Thank you so much. You have a good day. Tell to stay warm over the weekend. Let's take this break, and I'll be back with more after these messages.
Banking the way it should be at First Copper Bank means you never have to worry about the season or the weather with online banking. It's always there and always on, 24/7, 365, even on holidays.
I'm Richard Walters, president of First Copper Bank, here to let you know that all of our online banking resources have been invaluable to our First Copper customers. Although our lobbies are open, personal and business customers have discovered how convenient and easy it has become to manage financial resources without having to come inside the bank. And all of our online services, including mobile banking app, are free. Visit selmapostherald.com to get all of the information, or feel free to call any of our locations in Selma, Troy, or Gulf Shores for any questions or information. Banking the way it should be at First Cahaba Bank means we are constantly focused on the very latest technology for customer convenience and overall satisfaction. We would love for you to join our growing community bank family. First Cahaba Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
How's your circulation? Do you suffer from fatigue, leg cramps, weakness, or pain in your legs when walking? Do you often have to stop and rest before you can continue? If so, you could be suffering from PAD, peripheral artery disease, blockages in your circulatory system. It may be time for you or your doctor to get in touch with Alabama Vascular Specialists. AVS is growing and serving our area with the most advanced vascular surgery and treatment available today. Dr. Ralph Redd, Dr. Irwin White-Giddens, and Dr. Richard Tan are changing lives for the better when it comes to the vascular health of their patients. Other factors include high blood pressure, diabetes, obesity, smoking, and high cholesterol, all big contributors to poor circulation and vascular problems. Not to mention family history. AVS can help with you on the road to recovery. Offices in Montgomery and Selma. Call 334-801-9952 and online at alabamavascularspecialist.com. Great.
1490 WHBB. Okay, that caller is gone. 875-334-875-1490 and 1492 are the numbers to call if you have comments or questions. And so, there's a lot of scapegoating that goes on. People who are in denial or don't want to accept responsibility for when they know they're wrong. If I'm speeding if I'm doing 80 miles an hour in a 65 mile an hour speeding zone and the state trooper pulls me over, there's no need of me getting mad with the trooper for doing his job. I should know if I have a driver's license and and I've taken the test and all that. I should know that the posted speed limit was 65. So why am I going to get an attitude with the trooper who's pulled me over for something that I've done and I know I'm wrong? That's a lot of the problem. A lot of us don't want to accept when we're wrong. And as far as our president is concerned, my life does not revolve around the government. It's just like, when I was in New York, New York, well, depending on what level you were off financially, but the more successful, the more money I made in New York, the harder and the more time I had to devote to work. It got to the point of where I came to the conclusion that in New York, you live to work, not work to live. And it's supposed to be the other. We're supposed to be working so we can enjoy life and have a little, enjoy some of the fruits of our labors. But when it get the more intense, you get into a market or a city like New York, the more money you make, the more successful you are financially, the more time you are having to give to get there. I worked for a company where they would provide. You didn't have to pay for breakfast, lunch, and when you got into management or dinner. But the key was you couldn't leave the building, you couldn't leave the office, and they brought the food in. They had catered food. They had a table 100 feet, almost 200 feet long, of gourmet meats and gourmet breakfast. and gourmet dinner. If you were productive and if you got into management, you wouldn't leave until 8, 9. You'd get there 6 o'clock, no, 8 o'clock in the morning, and you leave 8 o'clock at night. They give you just enough time to get home, go to sleep, and get back up. That's living to work, not working to live. So so I don't, all of my consumption of information is not centered around the government. The government has an impact on us, but that's the whole point. That's what your media and government is all about, being able to demand our time. Our time. Our time, that's the only thing we have. The one thing that the poor and the rich have in common, the unemployed and the rich have in common is they both have control of their time. An old Jewish friend of mine years ago told me, he asked me, he said, do you know the difference between recession and depression? And I said, what is it? He said, a recession is when your neighbor is out of a job. A depression is when you're out of one. Viewpoint, you're on the air.
Randy.
Yeah, yeah. I'm trying. Pray for me, huh? No, let's not go down that rabbit hole. That's what they want. You know what I mean?
I was reading a report about there was a billionaire American. He's moved to China, and that he's given $15 million into this Minnesota problem that they got up there. It's all contrived. It's all meant to get us confused and fight one another. And that fellow, the nurse that got killed, I hate anybody dies, but he wasn't innocent. Did you see the week before him spitting at the agent?
Oh man, yes, sir. I was surprised. I mean, he didn't look anything like what they described his personality was, but he looked like he was asking for it.
Oh yeah, well, they don't think there's going to be any repercussion. But one thing I want to ask you about, did you see the report where the FBI went over to Georgia and got all the voting records?
I got a story I'm going to do it coming up in the next hour. Yes, sir. And they're getting awfully frantic, but I hate to say it. But I suspect that we will find out shortly within the next year or two that the level of corruption that exists in some of those areas stinks to high heaven. And when it comes out, they should know better. Those guys know better. They know better, and they do it anyway. And so if you get caught, don't talk about racism, because there's nobody to blame to be racist on.
Well, Randy, I'll be honest with you, I don't know what election we've had was fair. If it wasn't already planned out, I believe that there was all kind of voting irregularities that we don't know about.
Well, look at the town here, and look at the town here in Alabama. Just a couple of weeks ago, they just had that election where because they had it was only 800 votes, I think. 400 of them were absentee ballots. They knew something was wrong, and they proved it.
Well, I'm not a big lover of the country France, but they don't have you got a vote. You got a paper ballot. There's no machines. Everybody's got to go vote. And they don't have all this early voting, late voting. They got one day, and you got to go out there, and it's up to you to get there and to vote. And we got to get back to that. If you can't physically get there, I understand the absentee ballot. But all the stuff that they have done and created is caused confusion, and let them have the ability to steal elections and steal the way they want it.
It's called the Dirty Tricks Department. They're beginning to use that term more, but the Dirty Tricks Department is looking at any possible way that they can cheat and steal and make you like it.
And all these people talk about showing ID, that it's racist, and you're going to try to stop voting. You know, you got to show an ID to get on the airplane. You got to show an ID to cash a check. You got to show an ID to run a car, to check into a hotel. You know, to be able to prove who you are. I always took pride in going and voting. My grandfather, I remember going with him and going to vote. People took pride in what they did and that they could exercise their right to vote. And I don't, why would you want to prove who you are?
Well, and you know what, and that's really, if that should, African Americans should be offended by the suggestion that we don't have enough personal responsibility to get a legal government issued photo ID. I'm offended when they say, I'm offended by that.
And they show up to vote, Randy, and that you don't have the courage to go vote, that you don't have the willpower to get up and get off your tail and go vote. I mean, that's a right most people in the world don't have.
Well, and the other thing too, I'm beginning to understand. I think that people who vote, people who get up and vote, as you just pointed out, who take that responsibility serious, they tend to pay more attention to what's really happening, and they tend to read in between the lines, and they know when somebody's trying to hook wink them. You know, so but those are not the kind of folks that a lot of people are in power. That's the last thing they want, to be scrutinized.
No, because they want to lie, they want to get you to believe that life is bad, and you know, they let 10, 20 million people in the country unvetted. I mean, I was reading a report the other day again about the women that came on the border. Over 60% of them, girls and women, were raped.
And we're supposed to be all right with that, and then in one breath, and then say, well, you're being inhumane when you try to deport an illegal alien who's murdered and raped somebody.
You know, the Bible talks about the day that right will come around, and wrong will be right, and God will give us over to praise and mind, and I think that's where we are.
I have to agree with you. I think you're probably right. I think because that's exactly that's how we're acting right now.
We need to pray for folks that turn away from the evil, because it's out there, but anyway, the good thing is God's given us another day, and it's a beautiful day, and I hope you get out and enjoy it. The weather is good today. It's not so cold.
I'm enjoying it when it's cold, because at least I know I'm alive. You know what I mean? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You do the same. Try to stay warm. Let's take this last break before the top of the hour in the news, and then we'll come back in the 9 o'clock hour for the final hour of the Friday morning Viewpoint and your calls right after these messages and Fox News.
Has GE and Hot Point appliances in store on the floor. Mattresses by Sealy and Ashley. Gorgeous furniture for every room in your home. And you might not have known, but Gray's even has many one-of-a-kind estate pieces. Come check them out. And right now, take advantage of 12-month interest-free financing if you're her. Miss Margaret and Ms. Lisa would be delighted for you to come by. Open 9:30 to 5 Monday through Friday and 10 to 3 Saturdays. Gray's on Broad. Furniture so nice to come home to. And right now, all living room suites are 20% off. Whether it's for the big game or the family get-together, Dave's Market would be glad to steam some delicious shrimp.
or other seafood available in the store, and vegetables too. If you haven't tried one of the rotisserie chickens at Dave's, pick up one. You will find it is fantastic. And now you can pick up delicious, hot, fresh Hunt Brothers pizza and wings. All this and more now at Dave's Market on Highway 22 in Valley Grant.
1490 WHBB Selma. I'll see you on the other side of the news and try and get into some headlines. There's a lot going on that I hadn't gotten a chance to get into yet, but I've got several things that we need to know. Stay tuned. Fox News is next on WHBB Selma. It's 9 o'clock.
It's an attack on the First Amendment. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. That's what Don Lemon's lawyer claims after the former CNN anchor was arrested in a federal crackdown on a Minnesota protest.
Don Lemon taken into custody at a hotel in Los Angeles Thursday night by federal law enforcement, almost 2 weeks after activists stormed a Christian church in an anti-ICE protest in St. Paul, Minnesota. The former CNN anchor was with the group. Last week, a judge refused to sign a federal arrest warrant for Lemon. Several others have been charged in the case.
Fox's Jeff Manasso. The anti-ICE anger grew even more after Saturday's shooting of a protester, Alex Preddy, who President Trump on Truth Social this morning called an agitator, maybe even an insurrectionist, citing videos of Preddy clashing with federal agents days before the shooting. Meanwhile, there's a call for people across America to not go to school or work today, not to shop. Fox's Kevin Court reports from Minneapolis.
Those ICE out protests scheduled for all over the country, restaurants, and even some schools in different locales will be shut down, not just today, but over the weekend as well, all in solidarity of the anti-ICE protests, which of course have been gripping this city.
Democrats are demanding ICE reform, which could lead to another government shutdown, a partial one with a midnight funding deadline.
The deal that President Trump and Senate Democrats hashed out would separate the DHS funding bill from 5 other bills. The programs included in the 5-bill package would be funded through September. DHS would be under a 2-week stopgap bill to allow Democrats more time to negotiate changes.
But Fox's Madeline Rivera reports even if it passes the Senate, the House wouldn't consider it till at least Monday. President Trump's picked a new leader for the Fed, nominating Kevin Warsh to replace Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell, who the president says did not cut interest rates enough.
Markets perceive Warsh as supporting lower interest rates, but they see him stopping short of more aggressive easing. The nomination must be confirmed by the Senate. Powell's term as chair expires in mid-May.
That's Fox's Ginny Casola. America's listening to Fox News.
Welcome back to Winter Hack Radio, the place for clever hacks to survive the season. Icy driveway? Or try spreading sand or birdseed to help with traction. Snowy puppy paws? Well, grab a whisk, brush it off, done. Catch COVID-19? Well, just get...
Actually, there's no hack for COVID-19. But if you test positive, prescription medications for COVID exist. Ask your doctor if they're right for you. Visit PfizerForAll.com to learn more. Sponsored by Pfizer.
Pizza's here. Oh, great. I'd love some, but I'm worried about my stomach issues.
If you're worried about having diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose, oily stools, it may not just be stomach issues. It could be a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and talk to your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
Stocks are down on Wall Street. The Dow falling 180 points. The Nasdaq's dropping 123. The S&P 500 losing 28 points. We got an inflation update this morning showing a 0.5% increase at the wholesale level last month, but the annual rate of increase of producer prices held steady at 3%, same as November. The price of oil is up a quarter, further above $65 a barrel. Gas is unchanged. AAA's national average for regular remains $2.87 a gallon. That's 24 cents cheaper than a year ago. As the U.S. eases sanctions on Venezuela after that country lifted restrictions on oil there.
Venezuela's National Assembly approved the bill signed by acting President Delcy Rodriguez. It allows private companies to control the production and sale of oil, ending a state-owned oil and gas company monopoly. President Hugo Chavez tore up contracts and nationalized the industry after taking office in 1999. He died in 2013. And his successor, Nicolas Maduro, was taken into U.S. custody January 3rd to face drug trafficking charges. The new law also allows for disputes to be heard in independent arbitration. not by courts controlled by Venezuela's ruling party. Chris Foster, Fox News.
President Trump has filed another lawsuit. This one targets an agency in his own government, the IRS.
A Trump spokesman told Fox the IRS wrongly allowed a rogue, politically motivated employee to leak private and confidential information about President Trump, his family, and the Trump Organization to the New York Times, ProPublica, and other left-wing news outlets, which was then illegally released to millions of people. So the president is suing the IRS for $10 billion. Unlike other presidents, he generally hasn't released information about his taxes, often saying that they're complicated and tied up with accountants. In Washington, Jill Nato, Fox News.
At tennis's Australian Open, Novak Djokovic just beat Yannick Sinner to advance to the final. Djokovic will face Carlos Alcaraz. I'm Dave Anthony. This is Fox News.
Your 1490 WHBB weekend weather. Clouds on the increase today with a high temperature of 52. We are cloudy and colder tonight as we drop down to near 20. Northwest wind picks up at about 10 to 15 miles an hour. Tomorrow is a first alert weather day. It is going to be very cold, gradually clearing up. The high temperature for tomorrow, not expected to get above freezing, only about 30. Add in a strong, gusty northwest wind up to 35 miles an hour, giving us chill factors, making it feel like it's in the teens all day. Tomorrow night, clear and extremely cold. We'll be down to the middle teens. That northwest wind still up to 30 miles an hour at times. Sunshine for Sunday, a high near 40. Clear, not as cold, upper teens Sunday night, around 50 on Monday. And that's your weekend weather from WHBB.
1490 WHBB. Good morning. This is the second and final hour of Viewpoint for this Friday morning. You know, and I've been listening to all of these reports. Let me backtrack a little bit and go back to Mr. Lemon, Don Lemon. It's what I'm not hearing, I think, that concerns me more so than what I'm hearing in these news reports. The first question is, if he's no longer with CNN, who is he reporting for? Or has he started his own blog? Is he publishing a website or a newspaper? Has he started a TV? Who is he reporting for? That's the first question that I don't hear anybody addressing or saying anything about. Now, I have told you before that I have relatives who are gay. I've had associates who are gay and even worked for a gay person at least once, and we had a fairly decent friendship. You know, so I'm not, what is it called, homophobic. but most of these gay people that I know are not into the church. Now, there are some gay organizations and bisexual organizations who profess to be Christian. And much of the Christian doctrine would say, well, that's kind of opposite of what the doctrine says, but they don't think so. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. But at the end of the day, look at how divisive the whole issue of bisexuality and the LGBTQ plus community is within the Christian church. It is very divisive. There have been a couple of denominations who have been rocked and split almost in half over the gay issue. So it's not in my imagination. This is a real issue. And so to a large extent, a great number of gay people are antichrist or anti-Christian. And many of them probably because of Sodom and Gomorrah. You know, although, you know, I heard somebody give another interpretation of Sodom and Gomorrah that I haven't seen anywhere in scripture, but that's what they thought, you know. But of course, for those who may not know about Sodom and Gomorrah scripturally, when Abraham considered the father of many of our religions, when he had a nephew, Lot, that was in Sodom and Gomorrah, and Sodom and Gomorrah had a reputation for men that were gay, predominant gay culture, gay city, and when the Lord came to visit Abraham, before he went to Sodom and Gomorrah, he told him, "I'm getting ready to go and destroy it." He said, but my nephew and his family is there. He said, Lord, if there's 50 faithful people who are not gay, basically, would you destroy it? And the Lord basically said, yeah, if it's 50, I won't destroy Sodom and Gomorrah because of what they practice and what they do. And he went all the way down. I think he went as far as he went to 5, 10 or 5. He went way down. And the Lord said, yep, I won't destroy it if it's that. So 2 angels were dispatched to Sodom and Gomorrah. And they were, and when they came into the city and into Lot's house, the men of the city said, send us the 2 men that just came to visit you. And Lot said, no, you can have my daughters. They're virgins. They said, we don't want the women. We don't want your daughters. We don't want the females. We want the men. And so they were getting ready to break in, and the angels told Lot, in essence, don't worry, we got this. We got this. Don't worry about it. There's nothing man can do to us, And so they blinded the crowd as they were they want to take the angels by force. They want to rape them. And so the angels blinded the citizens, the people of Sodom and Gomorrah. And then they told Lot, get your family and leave and don't look back. And that's what he did. His wife looked back and turned into a pillar of salt when she saw the destruction that was being rained down on Sodom and Gomorrah. Now, a lot of gay people were offended by the story, but I didn't write the story. The story is in the Bible. It's scripture. So you have to argue with the writers of the Bible. But I'm just giving you a backdrop in terms of just what Sodom and Gomorrah is considered to have been a city that was engulfed in bisexuality. The LGBTQ community was at its height in Sodom and Gomorrah. And this is what a lot of these issues are about. And so there's a great number of people who are bisexual, who participate in the sexual freedom concept, who do not like the Christian doctrine. It's as simple as that. And so, action speaks louder than words. Now, I don't know what the deal is with Mr. Lemon, but I wouldn't, but judging from the information that I had in terms of the behavior and what he was doing, that was my first conclusion. And there's been some other things, we can't isolate one situation from others. There has been a history of this dialogue, along Christian lines. And somewhere in my memory, he has expressed a disdain for the Christian church. Viewpoint, you're on the air.
Yes, good morning. Yesterday you said you are bonafide when you didn't use bonafide, but you said you are a journalist and other people talking don't know what they're talking about.
I didn't say people didn't know what they were talking about, but I did say that's what I do. And I'm in the media. That's what I do. I'm a reporter. That's what I do.
Somebody asked me a question. What journalism school did you go to?
I went to, whoa, let me answer your question. Hampton University. I majored in mass media. In fact, the chair of the mass media department said, you don't belong here because most of the instructors we have here have never stepped in a studio.
Yeah, we heard that story before. I just haven't gone to
Hampton University. That's where I studied mass media. I designed their radio station for them and helped them get a radio station and to increase their power. That's how entrenched I was at Hampton University, at the insistence of the president of the university. How about that? Gay. He's gay.
He is completely.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's not bi. He's completely gay.
Yeah, he's completely gay. And then I thought about, this is a question that was posed to me why did black men, maybe the Calvin and the other, the man that always had to go to work after he would have made his insults. Maybe they can answer this question. Why do white men feel that they should rape? Because that's what happens an awful lot. Rape black people, men or women, because they are just that way.
What makes you say that? What are you referring? Are you referring to something that has happened recently, or are you talking about 100 years ago?
No, they make me now. They make men now. They make men.
You're saying white men rape black men and black women now. Who are you? What are you? Give me an example.
Well, there are issues.
No, give me an example.
Whereby women have been molested or raped.
I'm just asking you to give me what are you referring to? Tell us what you're referring to so we can look it up.
The reason I mention it, every time you always look up how black women have been abused.
No, recently. I'm not talking about 100 years ago. What about now?
It happens today. It happens.
Give me an example. You can't give me one.
I can give you plenty of them. I just don't have time to.
Well, then don't bring it up unless you're prepared to defend it.
Listen, man, let me tell you this. I woke up this morning to the melodious voice of I thought it was Marian Anderson, but then I looked it up and found out that Marian Anderson did not perform at the opening of the Voters' Rights, not the Voters' Rights, the African American Museum on DC. I don't know whose voice that was. I'm going to have to find out. But I guess I'll listen to the concert again because I really was in my sleep when I heard it. But I wanted to say that it was such. I didn't know that Linda from Selma. Her mother was from Selma, Mrs. Walker, Dr. Walker's daughter. I didn't know they had given $5 million to the building of the Voters' Rights. Voters' Rights. I mean
the YMCA.
No, I think it was far more than that. I'm sure to that. No, it was to the African American Museum that was built on the grounds.
Oh, you mean in DC? You're talking about I got you right. Yeah, there was a lot of people that helped finance that.
Yeah. Hey, it was something else I wanted to share, but I guess I'll wait until others have had an opportunity, because if you have a little time, I wanted to tell you about how children, you have to go with what you know in order to teach them issues or such situations to your grandchildren. One of my grands didn't want to go, but I'll tell you about it. He didn't want to go to school, and I was telling him about a joke, about a situation with Turbo, because Turbo had been accepted into this international baccalaureate school. And he wasn't used to that because his structure had been in a private school for years. And when he got over there in a public international baccalaureate school, that's why I introduced all those things to Selma when I came here. I introduced all of the festivals that we had when we lived in Milwaukee. But anyway, having said that, when the International Baccalaureate School called me at my office and told me that Tobo wasn't at home, I knew he wasn't a bad child, so I went home, and there he was in his room. And of course, we returned him to the private school setting, the Lutheran school setting that he was most familiar with. He just wasn't used to the public school children. So I brought that up to say that we have to look out for our children today. And if you find those kind of issues and you have situations that you can help your children to better relate to, share those issues with your children, because there is nothing to hide, nothing under the sun to hide from educating people about the truth.
All right, thank you for calling. She reminded me of my mother. I said, thank God for my mother. My mother told me years ago. She said, ego can't put food on your table. So you may like this radio business, but if you're not getting paid, and if you're not benefiting from it financially, you need to make sure you learn how to do something where you can feed yourself and your family. Viewpoint, you're on the air.
Like John Lemon had this show on YouTube, Spotify, he's all over the place, and he is a journalist. But my problem with you and what you were saying is, Listen, they're talking about the man's sexuality, and I ask you a simple question. What do you think about the DOJ arresting journalists?
You didn't say the DOJ. You said arrest. What do you think about the situation and the arrest? And again, I gave you my opinion. If you can't accept my answer, that's that tough titty. That's your problem. Don't ask me a question and then when I give you the answer, you can't accept it. I can't help that. What you want? How about this? How about if I lie to you? Would you like that? How about if I say what you want to hear? How do you like that?
Let me say something. Let me say something. You never answered the question on how you feel about the arrest. You went off and started talking about his sexuality and everything else. You didn't answer the question.
Well, let me answer your question after you make your comments.
See, the thing is this. That tells a lot about you. You know what I mean? You shouldn't be talking about you're not this and you're not that. You're not homophobic or you're not this and that and all that. Yes, you are. I can tell the way you talk about people. You don't have disdain for these people.
No, I don't practice their lifestyle, brother. I'm a straight man. There's something wrong with that? Yeah, to some people think something wrong with being straight. What are you talking about? So that because I'm straight, that means I hate people that are gay? I don't hate the relatives I had that were gay. Unfortunately, most of them are dead because they died from AIDS. I'm not bashing them. How am I bashing? Well, no, I'm bashing if what I'm saying is not true. Then I maybe would be bashing. You heard how? Well, let me back up then. Let me back it up because that's why I'm so tired of folks getting all this bad misinformation. If wait a minute, let me finish. Doggone, Lord have mercy, Jesus. Let me answer your question. Now, if a group of people entered into a church on a Sunday morning during service and interrupted their freedom of speech, then yeah, that's illegal. Then yeah, they should be arrested and tried. Now, whether they're convicted or not, that's a whole nother story. But there's nothing wrong with them being arrested and brought before a jury of their peers to be judged. Was he there? Was he there in his capacity as a reporter? I know a reporter that got too close to the story in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, with MOVE, and he ended up on death row. Well, that's the whole point. You don't even know what I'm talking about. But if you were active, you know exactly who I was talking about. How many reporters buy coffee and donuts for the protesters before they go in? No, most reporters can't afford to. What were you talking about?
You got a lot of people that go around doing everything outside of the law for Donald Trump. Just like that.
What am I doing outside of the law for Donald Trump? You know, when you make these statements, you need to be able to back it up.
I can't back it up.
Back it up.
John Clinton, in the case of James, he took all this stuff and put in John Clinton and didn't make it. Get this out of here. He didn't go on a retribution tour to go in and get big to the people and charge him with pains and this and that and all of it. That's all it's doing.
It's way over your head, and it's over mine too.
And he's down in Georgia right now. Man, the case folks will be coming up on February 9th to sit there and go to court to see it. And they have to turn over documents over. Guess what? When judge someone in the judge do, oh, we can't do it. They went to the judge somewhere else. They went shopping. And that's how they got to, work to go get those things. Now, all they had to do was wait 2 more weeks. But now, you want to go and just snatch them up and stuff. And the thing about it here, the bothers me about these conservatives and so-called conservatives, now Republicans, is I never heard about when Obama was in office and when Biden was in office, it's states right. This man going across the country and just going in all these cities and all these states, and it is legal everywhere. But y'all ain't got nothing to say about it.
Okay, do you have any more Democratic talking points? Go ahead and get them on out now, so we can take notes. And any more Democratic talking points? I can turn to almost any major mainstream news media and hear exactly the same thing you just said. I don't know. I told you it's over my head. Now, can you accept me saying I don't know? Can you accept me saying I don't know? You can't even accept me saying I don't know because it's not the answer you want to hear. You don't believe in the freedom of speech. No, you don't believe in freedom of speech. You're not into the Constitution or freedom. If you were or a student of history, I would know.
Now, up in Minneapolis this week, the judge came out and said that ICE and Border Patrol has not listened to them over 100 cases. They're supposed to return these people to this land now. Now, that's the Constitution, that's the judge, right? And they're not listening to them. So don't give me that crap about the Republicans and talking about the Constitution because they don't. It's just like what we said. It's a dictator in fashion.
Just like we said, huh? I'm glad you said that. You just said just like we said. Gotta let you go. We're gonna take this break, and I'll be back with more, and I maybe even have some more Democratic or Republican talking points coming up instead of original thought right after this.
Banking the way it should be at First Cahaba Bank means you never have to worry about the season or the weather with online banking. It's always there and always on, 24/7, 365, even on holidays.
I'm Richard Walters, president of First Cahaba Bank, here to let you know that all of our online banking resources have been invaluable to our First Cahaba customers. Although our lobbies are open, personal and business customers have discovered how convenient and easy it has become to manage financial resources without having to come inside the bank. And all of our online services, including mobile banking app, are free. Visit firstcahaba.com to get all of the information, or feel free to call any of our locations in Selma, Troy, or Gulf Shores for any questions or information. Banking the way it should be at First Cahaba Bank means we are constantly focused on the very latest technology for customer convenience and overall satisfaction. We would love for you to join our growing community bank family. First Cahaba Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Meadows Tire and Automotive is a local family-owned company that takes pride in taking care of your tire and automotive service needs. Whether it's your car, truck, camper, RV, trailer, or more, we've got you covered. See us first at 2897 Citizens Parkway in Selma. For better service, quality, selection, and more, we've got them. Come see them. Our deals you won't believe them. Meadows Tire and Automotive, where service matters.
Text us at 334-875-7276 and online at meadowstire.com.
1490 WHBB. I thought about Dr. Harvey, who, when I got to Hampton Institute at the time, now it's Hampton University, he had just become president, and we bonded immediately, probably because we knew some of the same folks in Alabama. And he was the treasurer of Tuskegee Institute, now Tuskegee University. But he was the treasurer of Tuskegee Institute before becoming president of Hampton Institute. And he was Brenda Harvey's father, Lionel Richie's first wife. and we knew some of the same folks from Tuskegee. So we instantly bonded. I hadn't thought about that in years. Viewpoint, you're on the air. Good morning. How are you? I don't know. Are you talking about, I don't know. I don't know yet. I got to look into some of that. I don't know if your radio is up too high or something is screeching on your phone. I will. Thank you. Yes, ma'am. I sure will. Yep. 334-875-1490 and 1492 are the numbers to call if you have comments or questions. And so to the question of whether or not I'm a journalist or not, let me take it a step further. Part of my training was one, but now I elevated when I started publishing. I've been publishing newspapers in different publications since 1980. I've been in the radio business since 1974. So, and I owned 2 radio stations licensed to me by the Federal Communications Commission. And so I had journalists and reporters who worked for me. So I just wanted to answer that, get to clear that up. For when, like the old folks used to tell me, a heap see, but a few know. And I just, so don't, if you're going to come to me, you better come to me and be ready. And be ready you're going to have to dance. Because I'm not going to just lay down. I have to ask the Lord to forgive me for not turning the other cheek like people would like. But there's also a martial arts concept. In Aikido, we turn the other cheek. And if you study the scripture, right behind turn the other cheek, it says, resist ye not evil. To me, that means fight back. But that's my interpretation. I'm not an evangelist. I'm not a licensed preacher, so I'm not qualified to even talk about, to try and get to the, I can't, I'm not qualified. I'm not qualified as a minister. I'm just a poor, lowly old sinner who believes in Christ. So people can either accept that or not. But I can tell you what, I'm not in the business of lying. I'm not going to just be lying to tell you what you want to hear. You got to watch that. Let's take this break.
Feeling bad? Don't have a doctor? Don't know what to do or where to go? Whether you need urgent care, primary care, or even family care, Primary Health Solutions is there for you at 913 Medical Center Parkway, right down from the Vaughan Regional Hospital. You don't need an appointment, just walk in or call 234-418-6700. Dr. Tyler Goins and nurse practitioners at Wood, Neck, and Crane will get you in, evaluate your symptoms, and prescribe the right treatment to get you well soon. Primary Health Solutions, Medical Center Parkway, Selma.
If you don't want to cook tonight, come to Dave's Market and pick up a delicious, made just like you like it, hot, fresh Hunt Brothers pizza. And Dave says if you need welding work, give a call to 37 Metal Works, 334-419-3721. Says they did some great work at his store. They do commercial and residential, equipment repair, gates, pipe fencing, tractor trailer repair, and much more. Ask Dave about 37 Metal Works when you get out to the store to get your groceries.
1490 WHBB. Now, maybe I can get to some news. Maybe I can get to some headlines. A lot going on. And I guess where we'll start is several things are happening. Let's see if I can't get to the beginning. Oh, boy, look at that. See if I can't get to the beginning of some of the headlines that are in the news this morning. I use a number of sources for my news, and there's some that I trust and some that I don't. But I don't use or reference news sources that I don't trust, because I've been in the business long enough to recognize when somebody's trying to hoodwink us. So I don't do hoodwink news. I don't have a hidden agenda, I guess is the best way to put that. So now, one of the sources that I do reference from time to time is a publication called the 1440. And this morning they're reporting on Senate Democrats, and they say that the Senate Democrats in the White House struck a deal yesterday that could fund a large portion of the government through September. A spending bill must pass in the Senate and House before midnight tonight to avert a partial government shutdown. The deal would separate the Department of Homeland Security funding from the broader spending package, which includes increased funding for cancer research. Is that okay? And I got distracted there for a minute. Okay. The deal would separate the Department of Homeland Security funding from the broader spending package, which includes increased funding for cancer research, air traffic controllers, and the military. Homeland Security would be funded at current levels until February 13th, as lawmakers continue negotiating restrictions on the Trump administration's immigration crackdown. Democrats outlined a series of demands after two Americans were fatally shot in Minneapolis this month, including requiring agents to remove face masks, obtain arrest warrants, and be subject to a uniform code of conduct. And I think what's been left out here is they also want them to be required to have cameras and to record, to have video cameras on their person. Last year's record 43-day government shutdown, driven by a fight over expiring healthcare subsidies, ended after a small group of Democrats reached an agreement with Republicans to fund the government through today. The Iranian crackdown continues. Iranian authorities have arrested multiple doctors and medical workers accused of treating wounded anti-government protesters, according to human rights groups. The arrests come amid a sweeping government crackdown on nationwide unrest that activists say has killed thousands. Doctors and nurses have reported large numbers of patients with gunshot wounds and say security forces have removed some injured protesters from emergency wards. The EU yesterday designated Iran's paramilitary Revolutionary Guard as a terrorist organization, and a US-based activist agency has verified more than 6,000 deaths, with over 17,000 additional cases under investigation. The Iranian government acknowledged over 3,000 dead. If you've seen any of the videos of it's terrible, the families in mourning of relatives, dead relatives that simply were protesting peacefully. They were mowed down in the streets. The news comes as Israeli and defense intelligence officials met in Washington to discuss options on Iran. Israeli representatives were expected to share Iran-related intelligence, while Saudi officials were expected to press to avoid a wider war and urge de-escalation. The U.S. has expanded its military presence in the region, but it remains unclear whether it will use force. And speaking of Israel, Hamas this week turned over the last remains of a dead Israeli citizen that was taken hostage and kidnapped on October 7th. And according to news sources, they also are in the process of dearming. So the peace process is moving forward between Israel and Hamas, not Israel and the Palestinian people, Israel and Hamas. In other news, a man survived 48 hours without lungs using an artificial system until he was well enough to receive a double transplant. We're making a lot of medical progress. The landmark procedure took place, though, nearly 3 years ago, with the patient since developing good function with his donated lungs. In 2023, the 33-year-old developed flu, pneumonia, and acute respiratory distress syndrome. In severe cases, that's ARDS, is treated with life support to give patients time to fight infection. In this case, however, the patient's heart stopped, his lungs were melting, and his kidneys had begun to fail. Surgeons at Northwestern Memorial Hospital decided to remove both lungs and use a 4-component total artificial lung system to drain, filter, and return oxygenated blood to the patient's heart at a responsive flow rate. Dr. Ankit Bharat, who designed the system, hopes that it can be used in similar cases of severe ARDS, which impacts a portion of the roughly 190,000 United States cases per year. Wow. We are making we're making progress technologically, and, although it's not reported on a lot, but now this is one of artificial intelligence strengths is they're hoping and they expect that it will be applied to being able to help come up with some medical solutions and medical procedures that can save lives, right? Now let's move to the weather. Snow and some of the coldest air in years is going to hit Georgia also this weekend, forecasters say. And state leaders in Georgia are asking their residents to stay off the road. Several winter alerts have been issued across their state for the weekend, just as it has been for us, just days after they were thawing out from last weekend's storm. Snowfall is expected in Georgia tomorrow as punishing cold from the Arctic arrives and clashes with rain showers coming north, traveling north from the Gulf of Mexico. And they say that this bitter cold test is a test for Georgia's power grid. Utilities say that they're ready because, you know, that ice and snow gets on those power lines and a lot of things can happen. And extreme cold watch covers the entire state of Georgia and goes into effect tomorrow evening through Sunday, according to the National Weather Service. We also have a cold weather advisory we have two. One is from tomorrow afternoon at 12 noon until Sunday at 12 noon. And then the other is from midnight tomorrow night until Sunday at 12 noon. So it's going to be cold tomorrow, but the good news is we have enough time to prepare for it. And so if you have plans to go to Georgia, you might want to rethink that because they're going to be having some real problems on their roads. And they're trying to do everything they can do to prepare for that. And I don't know if Mississippi is any better because they're having problems too. So all of the states that border Alabama, well, I think Florida too. Yeah, this has been an unusual year. But my question is, well, if what happened to the global warming? I thought we were supposed to be getting warmer. You know, what about all these predictions for what would have happened to the environment by now? Nobody talks about all of that was said that didn't happen. Well, that's what I mean about the dirty tricks department and misinformation and propaganda. It is what it is. So we'll see, right? According to the global warming theorists, which January 30, we should be sitting at 70 degrees. Not 30. I'm just saying, folks, all this, you know, the crystal ball, all this crystal ball reporting that I'm hearing is just, you know, is this food for thought. Viewpoint, you're on the air.
Yes, good morning to you.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm fine. Randy, I'd like to ask you, have you been married?
Yes, I have. I'm divorced.
Are you divorced? You've been married?
Yes, years ago.
Do you have some children?
I have one son and a granddaughter.
I heard that you had one son, but I never hear you say anything about it.
Well, that's
about your son.
What you want me to do? Put his business? You want me to put it? You don't want me to put his business in the street, do you? Let me. Well, I'm not going to expose him unduly. I can take. No, wait a minute. I can take the. No, every once in a while, I wish him a happy birthday. We have an excellent relationship.
And Trump is your next buddy.
President Trump is the president of the United States.
You love him. You take up on him every day.
What would you have me do?
You take up your life for him and everything.
What would you like for me to do for our president?
Tell the truth.
Okay. Well, you don't think I've told the truth?
Tell the truth. Tell the truth. That's what I would like you to do. Tell the truth.
Okay.
Don't lie for Trump. Tell the truth.
Okay.
That's what I want you to do. Tell the truth.
All right.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you so much. 334-875-1490 and 1492 are the numbers to call if you have comments or questions. Viewpoint, you're on the air.
Man, we're going to tell truth.com. We got those. Well, everybody on my truth.com. Oh, fine. Truth, no, I don't know.
You need the same thing right here when Trump and Hillary Clinton were both president. Hillary Clinton told everybody that Trump does not pay his taxes. Well, my question is, how come his name on Democrat politics and don't tell us don't pay taxes either? He said that he said he never paid the taxes. What does that make him? He said, smart. Oh, the Democrat, I ain't saying politicians yet. The Republican Democrat, they pay damn taxes. Every time they come up, they have to pay taxes. What's the cheaper? Well, we know one thing. Taxes is the one thing the government doesn't play with. Al Capone, the reputed mobster, they tried to get him on everything that he did. They never got him on anything, but they got him on failing to pay taxes. The President Trump, now, is one thing, like you say, is one thing to have your attorneys and your tax attorneys take advantage of loopholes that's legal, and it's another thing to avoid it altogether. So, like you say, you can't be mad with a man for being smart. There's nothing illegal about being smart. Al Capone went to jail for tax evasion. Yeah, I mean, they try to get him on murder. They try to get him on money laundering and everything going up. That's the only thing they can get him on. Well, when I'm reading a lot of this is people, they can dish it out, but they can't take it. They've launched all these investigations, but now when the table is turned, they don't seem to be taking that too well. Yeah, I mean, like I said before, I mean, we've had presidents out there, Barack Obama one of them, Bill Clinton was the other, and we can't get out of here. We get put out of office. Illegal people that come in the country illegally need to be rounded up and sent back to their country. But they never do. Except for Barack Obama, he sent back by what? For the 1,000 days. They don't say nothing about it. Somebody out here, he's about every 2 parts one, already raising hell. Like I said, Randy, Democratic people are ignorant. I'm going to put it right on that, but I'm not going to sugarcoat it. People that against this country, working them out. If they can't go along with the damn president, they're really appointed to be in there to run the country. If they don't like him, hey, you do. Ain't nobody holding you. People around Summer back around the country right now, they like the damn Democrats. They raise hell, like this, that, and the other, and hey, if you don't like it, move. You're right. You're like the other day, I was listening down on all those superstars and stuff. You don't like it, get the hell out. Plain and simple. We don't need you. You make enough money by people back around here, back over here, back around here, to live here all time. We don't need you. No, you're fine. Thank you so much. Thank you for calling. You know, there are a number of registered Democrats in the Black Belt and in Dallas County who do not share the left's philosophy that seems to be heavily influencing today's Democratic Party. And I've had people come to me privately, and I would never mention who they are, or because they're concerned, because they know how narrow-minded so many folks are, and many of the people who are in power, who are benefiting from being in the Democratic Party, will do everything in their power to destroy and discredit many of the moderate Democrats. So they keep their mouths shut. They don't say anything, but they listen, and I respect that. But let's make sure that we all on the one thing we know for sure: don't kid yourself.
everybody is not with this movement that has infiltrated the Democratic Party from the East Coast in California and from some of the other states that have been deemed as liberal. Viewpoint, you're on the air. You're at your limit. Go ahead. You got a minute to go ahead and say what you got to say. I got to get ready to take this last break. Go ahead and say it.
Okay, I'm in Germany. Message. Start views, actually putting papers and everything in the context church. I'm in Africa. African people that were born there. White people stopped them actually putting papers. This and that and all of this. Now, don't you see the same thing going on here in the United States?
No, I don't see a company. And in fact, the Jewish community has said they are The Jewish community has said they're deeply offended by making any comparison to what is happening to illegal immigrants that have come into this nation to when they were being targeted to be murdered and slaughtered in Germany. Now make your comment, and then I'm going to let you go.
Black and brown people are being targeted. I mean, the Department of Homeland Security said they are targeting people for their color and their speech.
Well, what would you have them do? Target white folks that they think are from Mexico and Africa and China? Are white folks are white folks indigenous of China, Africa, and Mexico?
What you're telling me is that the other person.
I'm telling you, common sense. I'm so tired of that ignorance. Common sense tells me that if I'm looking for somebody that speaks a different language, common sense tells me that if I'm looking for somebody from South America, I'm not looking for a white person. That's common sense. Now, what are you talking about? I didn't. No, that's not. Well, why did we let 10 million people come into the crowd? Remember, for 2 years, we wouldn't. The last administration wouldn't even acknowledge that it was happening.
Just because people are not white.
No, you're doing the straw man. You know, I'm not going to let you continue to do that. Let's take this break. You know, if you're gonna call and make comments, please be honest and not talking points.
Automotive is your undercar specialist. From the latest and best tire technology to the services required to keep your vehicle running great, we can get you out on the road quick and at an affordable price. See us at 2897 Citizens Parkway in Selma. Our deals you won't believe them. Meadows Tire and Automotive. Call or text us at 334-875-7276. Check us out online at meadowstire.com.
Bad weather? Under the weather. Relax at home. Your meds are on the way. At Pilcher McBride Drug Company. We never want a busy day or a rainy day to keep you from getting the meds you need. That's why we bring our store to your door. Our citywide prescription delivery program helps you stay on track with your medication regimen without ever leaving the house. Give us a call today at 334-875-7208.
14. Now, I guess I have to say this. When I was in Philly and New York and was in Hispanic and Latino neighborhoods, you could not tell from the color of a person's skin what they were. There are some Mexicans and there's some Puerto Ricans who are as dark as black charcoal. And the only way you know that they're not African Americans is when they open their mouths. When I was in Harlem, not Harlem, but yeah, where Harlem was part of it, in New York, I found very interesting that it was very few native New Yorkers that were African American. You know, they really caught the devil. Most of the black faces that were in high positions in the financial community and other areas, this color of their skin was dark, but they were from Africa and everywhere else. You know, and so that's food for thought as well. And so, yeah. So, and I also know I've known some Mexicans who could pass for white. You couldn't tell what color they were. You couldn't tell what nationality they were, but they looked as white as anybody else. So, you know, all these these are straw men that many people use to try and win an argument and to win people over to a particular position. But I'm like Dr. King. Truth crushed to earth will rise again, and the arc of the moral, M-O-R-A-L, the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice, and it will prevail. It's just a matter of time and a matter of when. But I suspect that we're getting ready to go through a period where a lot of truth is getting ready to come out. Whether or not we can accept it or not, that's another story. Going one more story. The Alabama Department of Corrections Commissioner John Hamm said yesterday that the state is making progress towards fixing a long-term severe shortage of security staff. This is from AL.com. Hamm said that the Alabama Department of Corrections had 473 graduates from the Correctional Officer Training Academy in 2025, a record high number. Hamm said that ADOC has a security staff of about 2,300 employees. He said staffing has improved since substantial pay raises in 2023. The raises boosted starting pay to more than $50,000, with the potential to earn $15,000 to $20,000 more within a couple of years. Hamm, speaking to legislators, showed photos of Governor Ivey posing with several classes of correctional graduates at the governor's mansion. He said, I think that it's a significant indicator for support for the Department of Corrections and these men and women that do their job every day. We set a record in 2025. We've graduated more correctional officers from the Corrections Academy than any time in history. The shortage of correctional officers has been documented for years. U.S. District Judge Myron Thompson ordered the Alabama Department of Corrections to increase staffing as part of a lawsuit over mental health and medical care for inmates. The case filed in 2014 is ongoing. Hamm said the Alabama Department of Corrections still needs to add about 1,800 officers to meet the court order. He said, when we came in, staffing was the number one issue. Appointment by Governor Hamm, appointed by Governor Kay Ivey as commissioner 4 years ago. He says it's still an issue that we work on every day. Thompson cited a shortage of correctional officers as an underlying cause when the judge ruled in 2017 that the prison system failed to provide adequate care for inmates with serious mental illnesses. The Justice Department also cited the shortage of officers in its December 2020 lawsuit that said Alabama fails to protect inmates from violence and sexual abuse and fails to provide safe and sanitary conditions. Lawmakers who are holding hearings to prepare to pass budgets for next year asked Hamm whether the state's 4,000-bed prison under construction in Elmore County, the Governor Kay Ivey Correctional Complex, would allow the Alabama Department of Corrections to monitor inmates with fewer officers because of technology. It will be the first prison that has been built in Alabama since the mid-1990s. Hamm said we look at technology all the time to help us be more efficient and do our jobs a little bit more efficiently, but the courts are not going to look at just technology in supervising inmates. It's not going to totally take the place of the human body having interaction with an inmate. The new prison is expected to cost about $1.25 billion and is scheduled for completion in October. It will include facilities for medical and mental health care and for vocational education. And so that's where we are with the Alabama Department of Corrections. They still need 1,800 people to hire. And so, it's a hard job. That's a tough job, I've known several guards and have met people, know people who work in that system. And it can be a depressing job because of the environment in which you're dealing with, and a lot can go wrong. So we should pray for our officials with the Department of Corrections and pray for our community so that we can minimize the number of folks who are going into these prisons. And then, the sexual abuse aspect, there's a lot of people still in the prison system that are being raped. And that doesn't, I'm talking about man on bisexual, gay rape. It's happening. And they acknowledge that it's happening. And I'm not passing judgment. I'm saying it is what it is, And on that note, I have had, again, several family members that were gay. But I think all of the male family members and all of the males that I've known, except I'm not speaking locally, I'm over the years as I've traveled, they died from AIDS. Very unfortunate, tragic. Now they have medicine that can prevent deaths. So I pray for people, just in general, right? You have yourself a safe and enjoyable weekend. Watch this cold weather. It's going to be cold. I'll see you Sunday morning for gospel. Monday morning, the good Lord willing, for the Great Awakening. It is 10 o'clock.
Has just been spared. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. The death penalty is now off the table after a federal judge's ruling a short time ago ahead of a hearing starting now in New York City, where Mangione is charged in the killing of United Healthcare CEO